Hello, welcome to day 26 of the INTENSIFY podcast series. And today I want to discuss succeed using your unfair advantage. Now, if you are to use a simple mathematical formula for success that you want to achieve or you're trying to give expression to, I will say success is equals to access plus process. In other words, the people you have access to, the things you have access to, and the process you put in place for the accesses you have will determine where you get to. For instance, if you have a job currently, you had access to information about that job, you applied for it and went through the selection process, and you landed the job. If you want to succeed in your home, you need to have access to the right spouse and the right materials about marriage that will equip you. Then you need to consistently put in the right actions on how to work on your marriage, and you have a good home. If you're born again, you have the biggest success on earth. How did it happen? You had access to the gospel, you believed and you confessed it, which is the process, and then you became born again. If you want to have a child, as parents, what do? You don't just pray and fast. You have to have access to something, what people do to get children, and you process it, and you have a child. Somebody once said that you cannot have a baby in 1 month by sleeping with 9 women. You have to stay with one woman and wait for 9 months for you to have a child. That's the process. So the right process matters. The right access also matters. Now, some people don't have the access that you have. For instance, salvation, education, family, opportunities. They may not have had it, and you should always be thankful for the accesses that you have. Now, what we call success many times is a fine combination of access and process. And if you have followed this series so far, you have realized that I've talked about the success that you have. How do you intensify towards it? And the process that you need to deploy. So I've talked about several accesses that you need to have. I've talked about it, access to God, to people, and the rest of them. I've also talked about the process you will deploy, both spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically. But today, I want to discuss one key access and one other key process that you should always use all through your life. And this will give you unfair advantage in a world where millions of people, if not billions, are competing for that same space that you are targeting. Now let's start with access. If you recall on day 3, I discussed start where God started. Now, after you have started, you need to also continue to harness divine access. I strongly believe that having direct line to God is the biggest access and asset in the world. Imagine if you had the direct line, telephone numbers of 5 of the top presidents of the world, that you can call them at will at any time and they will pick your call. I'm sure you will feel so powerful, so wealthy, so strong. Now imagine you now having the access, the direct access line of the president of all presidents of the world. That is the kind of access we have with God, and even more. We're in the days of artificial intelligence, and these days people talk about ChatGPT and several other AI tools where you can do things faster and get intel faster. But there is also a divine intel that no AI tool has access to. I love the book of 1 Corinthians 2:10. It says that it was to us that the Spirit of God revealed these things, for the Spirit searches out everything and shows us God's deep secrets. We have a Spirit that has the capacity, is the best search engine in the world, and has capacity to search everything, even the deep things in the heart of God, and it can reveal those things to you. We must cultivate this, and this, if you do cultivate it, it will stand you out. That's why you must cherish access to scriptures. You know, we have the scriptures nowadays so easily. There was a time people craved to have access to scripture. They didn't have it like we had it today on our phones. That's why you should cherish things like praying in tongues, because what it does is that it's supernatural. It helps you to build supernatural stamina and fine-tunes you to enjoy supernatural insights every time. You know, I'm a businessman, and I know how this works in business. I know how it works in ministry. I know how it works in my career. I'll never forget a meeting I was into, and we were trying to get a solution to a problem. And within 5 minutes of entering that session, a brainstorming session, I profiled the solution. I said, let's do it this way. But they said, no, let's do, are we sure? Let's try and do some research. Let's do some studies. Let's get a group of people together to go and do some things to check. I said, okay, no problem. After the meeting, they got a team of people. They went for an extensive research for 5 weeks. And after 5 weeks, they came back to the conclusion that I gave to them within 5 minutes. You know, these people say, oh, how are you able to combine so many things together? One of the secrets is that I have supernatural intel many times. I just know the right thing to do, and I'm not against research, but I can tell you that many times no research has been able to validate some of those powerful insights that I have so far, because it came from the one who knows everything about everything. I'm into cybersecurity today. I must tell you that I saw it years ahead, over 17, 18 years ago. When I got into cybersecurity, nobody was talking about it. But the Lord had told me that this was the future. I was an IT auditor then. He said, get into cyber. And I had to go and be the first person to pioneer it and start it in my organization. Now, everybody wants to enter it. The problem that many people are trying to enter is saturated markets and not a starving market. I'm not saying cyber is saturated yet, but I'm saying people like to jump into things when every other person is going into it. But you can be a first mover. You can get into it when it is still a starving market, whereby if you are one of the few that have the skills, you will definitely stand out. I also remember my first breakthrough in career. It was when I discovered a fraud in a company as an IT auditor. How did I discover that fraud? I didn't tell them at my office then. But what happened was that I dreamt. And in the dream, the Lord showed me that the client I'm working on, there is a massive fraud that have happened. And I was a command that was shown to me to run. And if I should run that command, that script in the data analytics tool, whatever I found, what I found was a fraud. So I woke up and I went to run on the data I was working on, the same thing I saw in my dream. And when I ran it, I saw the figure I saw in my dream. And that was it. That was how I was able to nab the fraud. Now, everybody thought I was a genius, but all I did was to use an unfair advantage. Now, unfair in quotes. My access to God is what made the difference. Now, so you must begin to take your walk with God as a priority. It will stand you out. I've preached many messages on how to be led by the Spirit, and I want to tell you to go listen to them and practice them daily. As you journey through life and make decisions, always press in to ask and to check, what is God saying to me? We must take advantage of this biggest access and intel that we have. Now, one key process, I've talked about the access, one key process that can be an unfair advantage for you is integrity. Now, I use the word unfair advantage, but really and truly, these two things should not be unfair advantages because we all should have access to them. But I have labeled them that way today because people rarely use them, even though they are accessible to everyone. Integrity is something that is lacking a lot nowadays. Even believers, I see them cutting corners in workplaces. Integrity is the alignment between your thoughts, your words, and your action. You must get to a level in your life where people know that you always stand for the truth. Let it be normal for you that you can live a life without telling lies, that you always say the truth. You always stand for what is right. You know why? Even thieves give their monies to trustworthy people to keep for them. That's why they take their money to the banks. Because everybody is looking for who they will trust. And if people know that you are someone they can trust, they will want to do work with you, they want to do business with you. People like people they can trust. And being a person of integrity nowadays, especially in the country where we live in, is going to grant you an unfair advantage. You must stand for integrity. Make up your mind today. It pays. I'm telling you, it pays. Initially, it will look as though others are going ahead of you. But in the long run, you realize that integrity pays. So it's about access plus process is equals to success. Now you have a unique access to God, and then you had integrity to it as a process with every other thing we're talking about. Come on, your success will be very unique. And I look forward to hearing your success stories. If this is your first time listening, don't forget to subscribe. I also want to encourage every one of you to please share this to your friends, your families. A lot of people need these things. People are struggling and suffering for things that are so accessible. Share it with them, encourage them to listen, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow for the next session.